IMTV, Velocities in Music. Today we're going to do Iron and Wine's new album in 2011, Kiss Each Other Clean. Every time I hear that album title, I think about LCD Sound System's first song off their last album, Dance Yourself Clean. And so I might get that mixed up sometime in this review, and just to give you guys that heads up, I'm sorry if that happens. Now, Kiss Each Other Clean. Almost did it there right after I talked about it. Kiss Each Other Clean. This album, this is a big departure for Iron and Wine frontman Sam Beam, who I may also call Jim Beam at some time in this review. Now, a lot of fans are either loving this or hating it. And there's not a lot of middle ground, which is where I think Tom and I are going to try and navigate here. Because I almost did it. Sam Beam is a wonderful songwriter. He really is. And on his past work, he exemplified how he has just total command over the folk, kind of pop folk, Sufjan Stevens, but more folk on the folky kind of lo-fi side of songwriting, and he does an excellent job and that's still present here. But this is a much more expansive album. There's longer songs than what he has done in the past. There's more style references. There's a lot more production on these things. But Tom, what was your main response to Kiss Each Other Clean?
I really liked it. It definitely is a departure, definitely. I mean, he's incorporating a lot more things in the production side of things, more than anything, than he ever has before. And to tell you the truth, I feel like the songwriting really fits well with the rest of his discography. I mean, the songwriting style, now you said there are some style, like track 2, Me and Lazarus, has a little bit more of a bounce to it, a little bit more of a groove than you know, maybe you'll find in some of his older albums. But it's mainly, for me, the way he produces it. And it kicks right off with the first track, Walking Far From Home. First thing I notice is the vocals on the production are really weird and hollow sounding, but then it all of a sudden changes and it's like piano, and then the production on the vocals sound a little more normal, and there's some harmonies over here in the left speaker, and you know, all of a sudden there's just some random like snares and drums and other weird sounds and things, and it really sets up the album well because those things are what you're going to get a lot. Yet, it's all against this backdrop of this melody that's basically repeating over and over again for like 4 or 5 minutes, which is funny because I love that song. It's one of my favorite songs that's come out this year so far. It's an incredible song, but it's interesting how when you pick it out, it doesn't really do a lot in the songwriting department, but the production just makes it flourish, and it's an exact example of what the rest of the album is like for me.
And a lot of these songs, I found myself really getting into and really enjoying. Now, the album as a whole doesn't really feel that cohesive to me. I felt like I'd be getting into the song, and then the next song would come on, and it would be a complete departure from the previous mood. From everything that Sam Beam had going on, he just would wipe the slate clean and start over. And so it feels more like this is just a collection of 10 very well-written tracks that really, as an album, it's just like the Lego little ends aren't just meeting, and you have like diagonal Legos and everything, and it that doesn't go together when you try and do that, Sam Beam. It doesn't. You gotta learn how to play with your Legos right. and now that said, I love some of the things he's doing. One of the benefits of this kind of attack on the album concept is how many different styles he can reference. Afrobeat, believe it or not, soul choir, funk, fusion, jazz, folk, Americana, it's all here. It's all here for your listening pleasure. And you know what? There's a lot of good things to be said about that. It's just I'm looking for an album. I want to see transitions. And maybe there's something that he could have done to make it more of an albumized, fluid listen. But that's kind of where I'm at with that. Now, Tom and you and I have been talking about for about a week now about this album, some of the songwriting behind it, and I know that we've had the discussion that at least I feel like Sam Beam wasn't really trying that hard on this album. Now, you brought up the point that maybe he's just focusing on kind of adding another dimension to his music.
I think so too, and I think this is a logical next step for his music that I'm glad to see, because I think that if he had changed his songwriting style drastically along with the production, it would have thrown way too many people off. And I feel like this really works because if he had just made another album in the same vein of Shepherd's Dog, then it would have been like, okay, Sam Beam, you know, you're good, but we want something a little different.
Yeah,
and
I think diluting.
Yeah, exactly. And he steps away from that enough to make it different enough for me that I really enjoy this as a next step for him.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you know, it's not so weird.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I could understand for some people, maybe they would have even wanted a little more, and maybe it sounds like that's kind of what you're saying.
Well, to me, I'm listening to these songs, and throughout these songs, I'm thinking, wow, this is just, how he's putting these things together is just incredible. The way he's able to insert these different instruments and then build on structures that really aren't that structured. It's quite incredible, but it just feels like his vocal presence, his delivery and everything, it's just not really commanding. It just kind of seems kind of lackadaisical at times.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I think that it would have worked a little bit better if he had stepped up the intensity in his vocals to match some of the hugeness of the production.
Right, and before I get a tsunami of criticisms on what I just criticized Sam Beam for, I want to say that I absolutely loved all of these songs. The songwriting is fantastic, but that's my point. If he's this good, if he can just literally just waltz in and be like, oh, we're just going to play around and I'm going to write these amazing songs, what if he actually tried? What if Sam Beam actually set out to make this monumental album and he's like, I'm going to give this my all, I'm going to slave over these tracks, I'm going to make these the best tracks. You would have one of the best albums of all time.
And I think he did, but I think where he slaved over was in the production and the sound,
not
rather than the actual songwriting.
I agree.
Yes,
and
there's a big separation there that I want to point out. You know, you got to separate the two.
So what does this indicate that Sam Beam and Iron and Wine are going to do in the future? What does this mean? What do you guys think? Because we really have no idea, and now we're just all kind of thrown for a loop. And I think it's us. The fun we get to have now is we all just get to sit and analyze what we think they're going to do next. So what do you guys think Sam Beam's going to do next? But Tom, where are you feeling on this album?
I'm going to go even 80. I really like this album. I really enjoy listening to it. All good songs. You know, the first couple blow me away. The last few blow me away. I think it gets a little saggy in the middle, and that's why I'm going 80 instead of upper 80s, 90. If all the songs were that quality, it would be a 90 album for me.
You know what, Tom? I've been thinking, and I'm going to meet you there. I'm going to go 80 because I think that so many of these songs were so good that even though it doesn't have that straight through fluid album listen for me, you can't deny these songs.
They're just so good.
And maybe on their own they would be even better. But you know what? On a set of 10 songs, this is still a pretty strong album. So even 80. What do you guys think? Give us some feedback. Now, new kind of thing we're going to do at Velocities and Music. You get to choose the next episode. Do you want to listen to us talk about Deer Hoof versus Evil, or Cage the Elephants, Thank You, Happy Birthday? Leave us a comment, and that's what episode you'll see next. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are Velocities and Music, VIMTV. Thanks for watching, everybody. We are moving music critique forward.